Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Dynasty podcast. We're here today with Andy. Super excited to have him on the podcast. Excited to learn about all his experience, what he's currently doing now, and what he's looking to in the future as well. So, without further ado, I will pass it across to you, Andy, for a quick introduction on yourself.
Sure, my name's Andy Norton. I'm the founder and principal recruiter of a company called Harold Patrick Recruitment. We are a UK-based but US-focused manufacturing recruitment company. I've personally been recruiting for 20 years now, my 20th year. There's only me in the business, really, full time. My wife does help, and I also have kind of a part-time associate looking after the finance side of recruitment. But in essence, there's just me. I've stopped, we've paused, but the business is going great guns since I revisited the company back in October last year, and we were doing really well. We've got some good clients, got some good traction, doing really well, having a great time.
Love to hear my friend, a true veteran with 20 years going strong.
Something like that, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So, I mean, just off the bat, for those who, might not know you or might not know much about your company,
Sure.
would you be happy, just sharing a little bit about your journey into recruitment and, what really drew you towards the industry?
Yeah, sure. So started off kind of when I was 18, college. I was one of these, without blowing my trumpet, I was a kind of a high achiever, but I was very lazy. I didn't go to university. I did maths, law, and history at college, and then I took some time out. I wasn't ready for university. I was kind of sick of learning, and I don't know, just finding myself really. So I went into cocktail bartending, throwing bottles around, that kind of stuff. It took me from Birmingham to London. Ended up managing bars and. I got to kind of 23, 24, and it was like, I can't do this forever. It's not a career path for me. And some of my bosses and managers had gone into recruitment. So it's an area that I was aware of, typically catering recruitment, because coming from a catering background. And I went for a few interviews, and I was knocked back from a few companies and told, you're never going to make it, you're not a sales guy, you're not suited for recruitment. So I thought, sod it, I'll go back to university, do some learning, see what happens. And as I was going to learn, if you want, also going but to reapply to university, I got a random letter from a company in Bromsgrove in Worcestershire in England, saying, "Look, do you want to come for an interview?" I thought, okay, fair enough. I did. I got the job. That was in 2006. Stayed with the company for best part of 14 years. Went from trainee recruiter, supervisor through to kind of operations manager, looking after two of the brands. I was never really promoted into a role. Sounds odd. I kind of always made the role myself, my own. So if something was going on in the business, such as an area that lead look into, whether it be training, development, I kind of speaking to directors, made that role my own and grew kind of organically. I never went looking for any promotions; they kind of happened. I've got a horrible trait, whereas I tend to care quite a lot, and that gets me involved in things. I can't sit still; I have to try things, and that gets me into situations. That was all in manufacturing, back in the days where we had literally fax machines. Emails would be 15 minutes. I don't think LinkedIn was even a thing then, so it wasn't the
Wow.
kind of old Rolodex days. I'm not that old in recruitment, but I've certainly seen some things and some technologies kind of move on. Um, Went through the recession in 08, 09. That was pretty tough, but stayed with the same business, still in manufacturing. I then left in the back end of 2019 and set my own business up, Harold Patrick Recruitment, at the start of 2020, just as COVID was kind of slapping us all about and thinking, oh my God, I've left employment, car payment, and everything going on. But where there's will, there's a way, and I was determined to make it work. So you just graft, man, and you go where the market is. And my logic was, if people are going to be sick and at home, that means the medical sector is going to be busy in terms of manufacturing, and the waste sector, because there's more people at home recycling. They're all process driven, allied to the manufacturing industry. So that's where I went. I used the news to and followed the news and made some money, and that's how my business kind of survived and grew and flourished. Um, So I did that for a couple of years. I was then approached by some people that I used to know and train and work with, and they asked me to join their business as it was expanded into the States, which I did for about 18 months or so. And then I don't mind sharing, I had a nervous breakdown towards the middle of last year. Number of things going on in my personal life, but I had to take a step back. I wasn't very well. With my support of kind of physicians, therapy, my family, I decided to go back to Harold Patrick as a brand because it was me and it's named after my two grandfathers. So it means a lot to me, and it enabled me to kind of grow and kind of be myself again. I realised I'm not a big company guy. I'm really not. It's not for me. I'm my own boutique brandy business, and yeah, and I'm happier than I've ever been, and I'm off the tablets, so. Fantastic. I can drink beer and coffee again, so life's good.
Awesome, awesome. I think you touched upon some really interesting points there, especially when it comes to, people who do tend to land in recruitment, sales jobs.
Yeah.
It's very much never the case that someone said, I mean, there's the odd outlier, but I feel it's never much the case that someone's like, okay, I want to get into sales, I want to get into recruitment. It's quite oftentimes that they're just not too sure exactly what it is that they want to do. Apply for, however many jobs under the sun, or like in your position, relationship, you see people moving into that industry.
I do.
So yeah, I think that's testament for quite a lot of people out there as well. And yeah, also thank you for sharing, a little bit about the personal side as well. It's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's how quick you can get back up and
It is.
keep
I
going.
think it should share, and I think if I hadn't have, I'm quite open about it these days, and I think that's probably the flip side of being so closed about it, which caused
Yeah,
it to erupt. And now sometimes I do tend to overshare about it. I don't kind of go out and wear it on my sleeve, so to speak, but I think it's important because life's tough, man. And
yeah,
especially when you're building a business and you're in a salesy type environment, I don't think there's any shame or any stigma. And I really did. I would keep it all in. But now it's part of who I am, my journey. So I'm happy to do it. I did share a post at the back end of last year on LinkedIn. I was. It wasn't for me. It was for just a case. It was kind of it's an okay to talk, and the people that contacted me saying they've been through the same things that I've known for years, but I hadn't known. You would never have known, but
yeah.
and it just demonstrated on how many people find modern life tough. And I think it's fine to talk about it. It's okay not to be okay. And I know that's kind of a phrase that's very popular these days, but it really is okay, man. We're just human. We're just trying to get through. We can talk about it. It's okay.
I would agree. Life's hard, my friend.
So, yeah.
Life is very hard, especially trying to navigate, working by yourself, business world, all that comes with it, especially in, a field such as recruitment when it can often, well, it is target driven. You're always chasing, that next commission check or, that next client or that next placement. So yeah, completely sympathize on you there. And I think it's interesting as well. So you started the company in the midst of COVID. Um, Again, I don't want to go too deep into that because obviously we're all pretty familiar with the struggles that surrounded the pandemic, but more so starting the company back up,
Yeah.
around sort of 8 to 12 months ago, around that time. Um, like what were some of the struggles getting that back off the ground, or what did that journey really look like for you?
The big thing was because it was a shift. It was because I decided to make the move into the US market, and although I had worked in the US market before, I'd never done it on my own before. So I had I was just coming out of the back end of well, not that I was still suffering from depression and still going through my therapy and my medication. But then you've got damn, I've got to provide. I've got a young daughter. I've got my family. I've got a mortgage. Car. You've got life and things like this and financial
Yeah,
commitments, and I've got to make the business work. I'm not a quitter. Not that it's wrong with quitting, but I'm a very determined person when I put my mind to it. So yeah, it was challenging to manage everything from resetting the business up, getting the business known in the States. That was very tough from zero. It was a subtly different business model to what I was doing before. The hours as well. The hours actually work better for me having my young daughter. It just works better for us as a family. I've got calls booked after this. I've got calls. It's just I work the US hours, so you had to balance it financially, business planning, what tools did I need, and obviously planning what I was, what we were going to turn over and be doing kind of month one. month two, month three, all the way to kind of month four, month five, month six, managing cash flow, suppliers, US suppliers, UK suppliers, and everything that's surrounding that. But because I'd done it before, it made it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and it has worked so far. The business is doing very well. I can't moan. I've not got lots of clients, and I don't want lots of clients. I've got good clients who come back to me, and I get referrals off the back of it, and they pass me on to others. But it's how I set my stall out. I decided I don't want to be a spray and pray going, and I just wanted a small select of clients. I'm not here to grow this business and build it into this big entity and sell by any stretch. I'm here because I enjoy the business, and I'm going to do well every day.
Amazing.
That's it.
Amazing. I absolutely love to hear it, my friend. And yeah, I think as well, it's like quantity is never, well, in some cases, is not going to be better than quality. Like if you can handle a
Been
select group
through
of
that
people,
market.
that yeah, if you can handle a select group of people that's going to give you the best business that you need and allow you to do well and move forward, yeah, more power to you, especially if you're able to get referrals off the back of it. I totally get where you're coming from. You did mention obviously the struggles because you'd never worked that American market before, getting the brand out there, trying to, get a bit of awareness, bit of
Yeah.
recognition. What did that look like? Was that a case of, super active on LinkedIn, or how did you really manage to, make a stamp on that US market?
So kind of multi-pronged attack, as a lot of companies do. Cold outreach, whether that be kind of candidate-driven, via online tools, via my own database, information-driven, on the phones as well. Just introducing myself. I like talking. You probably know I talk too much, but I like talking about manufacturing because I love it. I'm not one of these recruiters who's kind of found a sector and thinks, oh, it's just a sector and means to an end. I know that I love manufacturing and sometimes too much. And when I'm speaking to a client, I genuinely care, and I think that's what's stood the test of time with me in recruitment because it's sincere. So when I'm
Yeah.
speaking to someone, even if we're not going after, a vacancy or a job or a new contact, when I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm pouring myself into it, and I honestly believe that that matters, and it happens with candidates as well. I speak to a lot of candidates all the time, and that's how I started, just speaking to people, finding out about information, finding out about what sectors were busy, what geographical states were kind of best suited for these sectors that I'm most used to. And I just went into them. I do use LinkedIn quite a bit. I'm finding my feet on there. I'm starting to make videos and things like this. And, I'm not saying I'm no marketing expert at all, but it gets me noticed, and I do get contacts off the back of my LinkedIn quite a lot, which so it means it's resonating somewhere. Um, so multi-pronged, if you like, cold outreach, phone calls, candidate marketing, but also LinkedIn. That combination of everything, but being very geographically specific. It wasn't just a, geez, the American is massive. It was picketed. It was pockets that were picked based upon the kind of sectors and processes that I knew I could add most value.
Yeah, makes complete sense. I think because myself as well, personally, like I've made a shift. So my professional life was all dealing with the UK market,
Yeah.
then more so in the more entrepreneurial stuff has all been targeted towards the US market. I think it's just a completely different person to sell into. Like
I'd much prefer it.
my yeah, in my opinion, I don't know about yours. It's like they're a lot more open. Um, you're not getting someone telling you to F off when you pick up the phone to them, which I love.
I've had it, and I
Yeah,
don't. I like that. It doesn't bother me. Got a really thick skin these days. It's just set. It's fine. It's just, yeah, no worries at all, man. Have a good day. It's
no,
nothing.
I would agree. I would agree. But yeah, I think it was an interesting shift for me as well because it's like you just have to navigate the conversation a lot differently, I think. Um,
Recruitment is, although it's very different. I've noticed in the States for the UK, there's a lot more talent acquisition internal. Is much bigger, um, but recruitment is still seen as a service. In the UK, it's so diluted. I've got a very unique, and I've been described in the past as being cringy way of coming about it, and that comes from being a bartender. It comes about being a Friday and Saturday night in the middle, throwing bottles around. I would just on show, and that's kind of come through. I'm not necessarily a salesperson, but I can be quite effervescent, and that my enthusiasm comes through. And in the UK, a lot that wasn't appreciated, and it's not.
yeah,
So I find a more natural fit for my style of recruitment and communication in the US market.
I would agree, and sometimes the accent does go a long way as well. Even if it's just getting your foot in the door with a bit of rapport building. Yeah, I sometimes find the
A
accent.
candidate I was speaking to today, I spoke to him a few times, and he literally said, "I love speaking to you, man, because my accent." And then he gave me a referral to his mate who's looking for a role, and that's what I've got a phone
Yeah,
call with after this call. It happens, but it's just about being sincere and being who you are. But
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. No, I totally agree. In terms of growth, then,
yeah,
and where the business is heading. Obviously, I appreciate you're more so on the approach of like small, tight client base, serve them very, very well, and retain them. So lifetime value is massive. Again, which I see much more value in as well than doing, you know, every job under the sun, however many contingent placements that you're trying to fill, just putting bums on seats wherever possible. It's not congruent to, long-term relationships.
no,
But I
it's not.
guess looking ahead over, the next 12 to 24 months,
Sure.
what are the biggest growth priorities for the business? Because obviously you said that you have to forecast things out. Is it a case of like,
Yeah.
okay, this month I want to acquire 3 new clients and that'll sort us out for, the next 6 months, or what does that sort of look like for yourself and your business?
Sure. So typically the way it's working at the moment, in kind of 12 months or so, I've got a plan for I mean, financially where we are, bearing in mind the business only really started October last year, already ahead of target. So, I mean,
Okay.
that's just me, which is wonderful. So we'll be growing the financial side of the business. We've got someone who's going to be spearheading that, which is fantastic. Will be people joining the main Harold Patrick brand in July, and then later on in the year, going to going back into the UK full time. We've got someone that's going to come on board and spearheading that
Nice.
because it's still a big market, and that's where I cut my teeth, and that's where the Harold Patrick brand was known. Um, so we do have people kind of lined up to join the business. With regard to the States, we're probably going to be looking to expand to one or two more consultants over the next year or so, working on kind of a remote model. But just experienced and trusted consultants that I know within kind of my own network. In terms of how we grow in terms of new clients, I typically I'd say bring on a new client, maybe one or two a month, and that's okay. I've never gone after more business that I can handle. I've been, as I said, I've been through the KPI to death, churn, bring loads of business on. I mean, at the moment we fill kind of like three-quarters of vacancies that come in, which is a ratio in contingent, which is kind of it's not the norm. I'm very picky about kind of the roles. There are roles which etc. which we take on with that I wouldn't necessarily go after, but they're given with by trusted clients. That's certainly different. Um, but I'm generally bringing on kind of one, two new clients a month. That's generally kind of where I am, and I'm comfortable with that. Um, that's comfortable
And
for the
and you,
business.
you predominantly work on a contingent basis, or is there any retained in there?
We do some what I do. We do a little bit of retained as well. I'd say probably 10-20% is retained, but the vast majority is contingent. But it's usually exclusive contingent. So I'm happy with that. But clients, I'd rather take a while to win a client, and then work exclusively on that basis. I'm not chasing fees for the sake of it. Being honest, I work from home. My kind of my outgoings are relatively low, so I have the capacity to be able to choose what I work on, and that means you can put more effort into it. Therefore, the return rate is higher. I'm not chasing numbers. I do KPI myself. I've got KPIs in my database. I've got a KPI spreadsheet, and I have a little KPI meeting with myself every Friday. When I fill in my own ratios, I've always been ratio driven. I've got people that know me, not my pink highlighter man. I've got my pink highlighter that I tick off kind of every day what I do, because I know what I need to do for my own personal metrics, just tried and tested. But yeah, and it's working. The business is growing as I want it to, and it's profitable. That's what matters,
Perfect.
and I'm happy.
Yeah, this is obviously one of the main things as well.
Yeah.
I think what you touched on there is so important. It's like contingent retained, yeah, the arguments are out there, but exclusivity is really what is like everyone's looking for. Without exclusivity, you know, you are, in my opinion, there's a bit of a race to the bottom type of mentality from the company's perspective, so like the client side perspective, because they're just putting the feelers out, and yeah, no one's really doing deep research. I think I've seen a stat, it's like 70% of the talent pool is passive. And with these, heavy contingent models, when there's an absence of exclusivity, I do think, it is a race to get bums on seats,
It is.
throw anyone in a shortlist, and sort of pray that,
It definitely can be, and I think something when I worked for myself previously in Harold Patrick, I learned really to say no, to say
yep,
I don't want to work on this, and this is why. Um, it's not a case of just saying no. It's this is my reasons for saying I'm not the best recruiter at the moment to work on that role for you because if any of these, it's like an experiment. If any of these variables change, then I'll happily talk whether the role, whether your requirements, whether it be the salary level, the skill requirement, the time frame. If any of these change, then I would be interested. But not every vacancy is equal. And as long as you can assess that and inform the client, and I've had some great conversations where I've pushed back and I've gone no, this is why, and I've written lots of documentation, I've written ebooks on it, and it'll all be coming in my new and improved website, which is on its way, and my web developers keeps beating me all the time because I don't give him the content that he needs. But we really are writing down in terms of the detail upon choosing the right recruiter to work with. I'm not for everyone, my personality isn't for everyone, and the fact that I've been doing this a long time, and I like I like not contrary for the sake of it, but if something I don't believe is right, then I will say why in my experience, because that's all I've got. I've got my values and my experience. That's fundamentally who I am. I'm not just going to go say, yes, sir, I'll do that for you. Yes, get some resumes. Yeah, no problem at all. Of course I will. What I'd rather do is go, there we go. Your salary isn't right. You're less likely to hit it because there's a survey based upon the last 12 months in your area of comparable roles. This is what people are paying. This is the roles that are still open. This is the ones that haven't been filled. Where does yours fit on this? If you don't change this, you're just going to be a statistic.
yeah,
That's not my truth. That's the truth. As long as you give statistics and facts to back it up, I find the relationship builds over a long period rather than just quick win, see you later, and going.
yeah, I would agree. It's all comes down to trust, doesn't it? It's like, and as much as I know in
It's
my
hard to
experience,
get.
yeah, it's super hard to get, and I know in my experience, sometimes showing things like statistics and things like this, that's the hard truths that clients don't like to see. But at the same time, it's no longer a case of he said, she said. It's like this is the evidence.
It's very difficult from a perspective, and when you're a stakeholder in a business, being told by someone that you don't know, that's not part of your organisation, that you're fundamentally wrong, that's a very humbling prospect. And a lot of the times when you're first dealing with a client, they have no idea who you are. So who's this
Yep.
person that's a not American, that's a Brit, that doesn't know me, doesn't know my company, that's telling me that I'm not going to fill my role in my business? Now, I can take that because I'm an aging vet with grey beards and all sorts in recruitment. But when I was a younger recruiter, the early days, I can't come back from that. And fundamentally, the training perspective in recruitment, it starts off. I come from all experience. I was trained kind of semi well, thrown into it, figure it out, as a lot of people were. But I had some nice directors which supported it. And I do think that the training now in recruitment is so quick. It's a case of there you go, there's your 2 weeks, there's your database, do a few mock searches, get onto it. Client objections, nah, it's fine. You're only going to email them anyway. You don't have conversations anymore to be able to build up that natural how to pause, how to control the situation, how to think, how to say, I'll come back to you. There's so much pressure to get an answer and to get someone signed on that call that decisions are made that are not right for the business, either businesses, rather than saying, okay, let's reschedule, let's all go and find this out, you go and find that, and let's come back in a week. I don't care that role needs to be filled next week. If I say yes, no, I'm not going to fill it anyway. So let's just come back in a week and both, if you want, come together with the correct information and agree a way forward. That's being a recruitment consultant, not a resume farmer. And there's a distinct difference which it is being lost in the industry at the moment. You see it on LinkedIn every day.
Yeah, and I think that's what leads to the high churn rates. Big stigma about people actually getting into the
That's huge.
industry is yeah, because sometimes there is a bit of a lack of training. It is I know in a couple of the companies that I've been in, as bad as it is to say, it was slightly a sink or swim type of model.
There's a
Um,
lack of care, to be honest with you, and a lot of it starts from the top. It starts from company businesses, companies owners who you become that pulled away from the actual recruitment job itself, and you're just running on the P&L.
yeah,
So cash is obviously king from a business, and recruitment businesses tend to be kind of cash heavy because of commission payments, etc., how they're structured. And so the reason for going into recruitment gets lost. And I'm not saying, people joining recruitment, changing people's lives and the perfect jobs. I hate slogans because perfect is subjective and unattainable, in my opinion. But and it gets lost, and because that's, if you want, fed down from the top of a lot of businesses, when new people are starting in everyone is what, it's a case of, it's a crapshoot, really, isn't it? It's literally rolling a dice every time and aiming for a six if someone's going to stay in your business. And I said I've been a business owner and I've trained people and I've fallen foul into this, but now again I'm where I'm most comfortable. It makes sense again to do things because you want to do a good job, not because you want a commission check at the end of every month. And that's a different perspective to have. But if that starts at the top in terms of company culture, what you have is a growth period. And I was listening to a podcast today. It's a wonderful podcast about a tree growing. If a tree is growing in a field and it's got nothing but the only tree in the field, and it's got sunlight, it's got all the nutrients it needs, it's going to grow really tall really quickly. Imagine a recruiter that's being fed, but it's not going to be strong because it's not going to have to fight for the nutrients around it, so it's not going to evolve. It's just going to get given and grow. The point is that if you get a recruiter that takes in and absorbs all that good stuff around them, that's involved to phone calls, emails, clients, candidates, getting on the phone, learning about people, learning about nuance in industry, they become better over time because it's what they're used to. When I first started, I asked my operations manager about a certain manufacturing process. I'll never forget this. And he went, "Why are you asking me?" I said, "You're my boss." And he said, "Absolutely not." He said, "Go and find out." And he closed my internet, so I couldn't use Google. Okay, that's the first thing. And he said, "There you go. There's a couple of CVs. Go and phone those candidates." So, what? And I did, and I went and phoned them, and one or two answered. And I asked them what the manufacturing process was. And some people think, "Oh, that's cruel. Can't do that these days." I'm so thankful that he did, because what it's taught me is to be resourceful. It's taught me to go and find something out for myself. And that to me is irreplaceable in this marketplace when you've got tools for this, tools for that, a quick way, email, do this, do that. If I can bypass that and have the innate want and need to go and find something else, that will just branch off and become a solid skill base that will see me through the rest of my career.
yeah, 100%. I think it is almost a little bit tied to as well as like remote working now. Um,
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, for me, when I was in the professional world, I was a big proponent of office every day. Not because, I loved going into the office. It's more so a case of, if I can go into the office and be surrounded by five more tenured people and sit at a table with them, it's going to elevate my growth and expedite my growth to a much higher extent than if I was to, sort of kick back, wake up at 10 to 9 in the morning, boot up my laptop and just sit in my room and tick a couple of boxes. So, yeah, I think very good point. Might be seen as sort of like tough love these days.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
don't see anything wrong with it.
there's definitely still a place for it, 100%. 100%.
I think the
So,
thing is, if you don't, the the problem down the line is that you have people that aren't rounded enough. Because what something that I was told very early on is, could you do your job if I took your tools away? And that kind fundamentally, of course, you couldn't without a phone, etc. But if I took away the tools that you used to, such as databases, etc., such as Google and things like that, could you still recruit? And I think I could. I think I'm resourceful now to go and find things to put things together. Well, I know I am because I've put this business together now from zero, and I've put all these tools together which are working. So yeah, I think I am.
100%. Just on the business as well. Obviously, like there's a bit of growth mindset going on,
Yeah.
coming back into the UK, another couple of different sort of verticals in the US.
Yeah.
I guess leading up to that, or even right now, if there was, like the number one thing that if you could fix it or improve it, would have the biggest impact on, that growth period that you're about to embark on. What do you think that would be?
God, that's a really good question. Really, really good question. I think the thing that for me at the moment is it's my own probably I won't say fear of being overwhelmed. And what I mean is that because I know my industry and without sounding crass, I can go out and get work, no problem at all, but I don't want to be taking too much on. So a good resourcing tool for me to give me backup searches in terms of candidates would be absolutely wonderful. Um, I do speak to people and have kind of people kind of working semi for me and things like this, but a good resourcing tool would be wonderful. Um, but I came up as a 360 recruiter. I'm used to winning it and searching it at the same time. So I
Yeah.
sometimes find it hard to give back. I think it's also is you don't know what you don't know. I've got a number of kind of tools and tech stack that I kind of that use that works for me. But there's probably going to be something out there. I have my own AI note taker. I don't want another one, despite all the 17 emails I've had today, suggesting that I do. But yeah, I think something like a good resourcing tool would work for me, or a person, or yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably it really.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I think there's definitely as, because recruitment is generally an old school traditional style industry. I think there's definitely room for, you know, specific products and ways to streamline workflows, to make life a little bit easier, or even just take a little bit of the weight off. I was speaking to someone a couple of days ago, and essentially what they've done, it's not quite resourcing, but it's like when it's like an AI type platform, and when someone puts out a job posting, say for example you get 100 CVs through, the HR department or whoever it is within the company that's going to look at that, look at all those CVs. They're probably not going to pay the full attention to all 100 of them. They might look at 20 of them, for example. So this guy's created a software in which an AI will go through it all, break all of those CVs down, and give action points, and just break everything up into a very digestible platform to take that information. And so I think people are always innovating.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, some things it's hard to decide on what ones to use.
Yeah, I've a love and hate thing with AI at the moment. I think it's a wonderful tool for planning and things, but I do have a kind of almost a beam up on it about things that like CV scrapers and things like this. And it was what I said about earlier, that manufacturing process. If I hadn't have done that and asked that candidate, the next time I saw that in a CV or resume, I wouldn't have been able to have the decision making process that I can do now. And what I figured out is the more candidates I speak to with that process or whatever, and the more clients I speak to with that process, I start to learn company names, and I'm not reliant on what's in the resume or CV, and I can make that decision faster than anything that's trained, and I've proven that many times. One thing I don't know if AI can do this. One thing that I've always prided myself on is I'm an inclusive searcher, not an exclusive searcher. If I've got 100 CVs and resumes, I will go through every single one because
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know. And what I was taught very early on is that the first contact you make with a candidate and client can lead to a placement. But as sure as hell, if you don't make that contact, you're not going to start that chain going. It's another one of these things. It's kind of always been in my head. So I will always make that contact. Yeah, because you never know where it's going to go. And I find the best candidates for me are the ones that have got virtually nothing on the CV and resume, because most people will ignore me. That's kind of like my, yeah, I want to find out about who this person is. They may have uploaded the wrong document. They may have not have known how to. And if everyone else is operating the black and white, I want to be operating in the grey. And that is how I've built my business and my brand over the years, etc. Everyone else, you go over there, chase that stuff. I'm just going to operate here. I'm not better. I'm just different, and
No.
different is what makes the difference by being different. And if I can say I'm generally different, and then I can evidence it, it's just worth its weight in gold.
100%, 100. It's even tied a little bit into. I think what you're speaking on there is it could be, more true, and I relate it to the marketing agency. What I tell all of my clients. So, if you're running an ad for say a contractor, there's probably about 50 other contractors in their area who are also running the same ads. The big thing in it's related to what you're saying there is like people don't actually buy better, they're going to buy different. So if you are able to go that extra mile, or in your marketing, for example, you're able to shoot a different ad that is new to the market and no one's seen before. That's the fine details which I do think get overlooked quite often, but hold immense amounts of value. Really
They
immense
do.
value.
Just if you can get someone's attention, or they've got your attention, and if someone's got my attention by not putting things in something in the resume, it happened the other day. Someone applied for a job that I had, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why he'd applied. So I contacted him and I said, "Why have you applied?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't send my full resume. It was the wrong one." And it happened the other day on Saturday, I think it was. And I spoke to him yesterday, and now we're writing a resume together. The same thing happened. He happened to be an amazing tooling designer, but he hadn't put it in his resume. He'd put the wrong one. So, and that's what, 72 hours ago.
Yep.
But the natural thing, if that, I guarantee, if that went through a filter,
Just gets
it'd be
lost.
rejected. But the thing is, if that would gone through a more junior recruiter, he would have been rejected. The reason I was quite interested is because why has he applied out of interest? But the company spent most of his career was, I knew what they did. So I knew that they could potentially be a match for the same environment that my client is. That's just experience.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do. It's just experience, and it's not. I'm not better. It's just I'd seen their name before. I knew what they did, so I was like, okay, cool. I'll contact him because of that and find out. And as it happens, yeah, he's potentially right.
100%. I guess sort of leads me on to my next question a little bit, because I think that's interesting. I think you're like, I don't think anyone else is really doing that. Or as you say, your more junior recruiter is going to come across that and just,
It,
redline it,
it's
excel.
just a training and experience thing. That's all. But you have to have someone there explaining that to you and showing you the value in that. It's not just resume, job spec, resume, job spec. My God, any AI in the world can do that. Therefore, I'll go and retire at the age of 44. Not going to happen. Can't afford to.
No, 100%. But yeah, that leads me on to my next question. It's like, are there any sort of strategies or ideas that, you have tried since reforming the company that you've found to be interesting, even if maybe they haven't quite panned out or played out the way that you'd have hoped they would have.
One thing I do more so is I tend to send out more information. As I said, in the past, I've been very much on um, transactional. I've been a very transactional recruiter in my career, and I really wanted to break that because it's not who I am, but it was how I was trained. So the problem I always had is I've always been transactional recruiter and always trying to break that model is very difficult because I was trained that way. So what I do now is I try and give something back. I give information a lot via my database to clients and to candidates based upon my impression, based upon stats, based upon news articles. I tend to give that, and if you want, nurture your audience. Um, and I find that works just as well as if you want cold marketing because I'm not asking for something. I'm providing value,
Yep.
and that is working for me as a business rather than just spec. Jesus Christ, end up in the spam filter, especially these days with Google and Outlook. My God, handwritten you. But if you can just add value to a marketplace and not go after a fee, it's almost counterintuitive. It's
Yeah.
rather than recruiters go after the fee targets. I'm not looking for the fee. I'm looking for a relationship down the line. And the biggest thing that's I have patience. It's just it's a different pace. I have patience. It's working for me. There are other things that I'm bringing into the business, in terms of plans, etc. I'm yeah, but the big thing for me is patience and nurturing my audience to provide value rather than to just draw cash out of it.
Yeah. I
'Cause
think,
it, so,
sorry, go on. Yeah.
no, no,
No,
no, that's it.
again, it just comes back even to what I was saying there. It's like people don't buy better, they buy different. It's like you can bet your bottom dollar there's not many people popping up in the inbox of, some high up title in a company leading with value and actually providing information and providing insights. Most people are, job spec, hunt, hunt, hunt. Um, so yeah, no, I think definitely an interesting take, and I can see why it works. But yeah, again, sort of similar question, but like if you could
Sure.
test out one thing in your business, completely no risk whatsoever, what would you love to try?
What would I love to try? Oh, no risk. I think something physical. I come from the olden days of sending out paper letters and things. I'd like to try sending something physical in gifts to clients to grab attention, because man, in the digital world, something different and tangible makes a difference. The problem is my post bill would be absolutely blooming horrendous into the States. Um, but yes, that's what I'd probably like to try, and I probably will do at some point. Set aside a budget and do that. But it's for me, recruitment is always about you get attention. I always used to use an analogy of a door. You get that door open, you you open it a bit more. It's about keeping it open, then walking through, and then keeping that door open to keep walking through. That's all. That's all sales really is. It's
Yeah.
solving problems and it's keeping that door open once it's ajar. Because if not, a draft will come and it'll slap you in the ass. It really will. Sales and recruitment aren't difficult. Companies, process, and targets make it hard.
Fact. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Cool, but yeah, just almost like coming up to a bit of a wrap up. If you could, like the most rewarding part of your journey as a founder, a leader so far,
Yeah.
like if you could put your finger on one thing, what do you think that would be?
Oh, freedom.
Yeah,
Recruitment to me is I wanted to, because when I was working in bars, etc., I was working 70, 80, 90, 100 hours a week sometimes, and I was consistently broken. But I was making money for someone else, whether it be the brewery, the owner, etc. Once I started learning how to recruit, and especially working for myself, I'm earning for myself and for my family, and that was a big thing. But it's also, therefore, I'm happier, therefore, the stress is off a touch. Yes, you have to provide, but having that freedom of mind and after especially what I went through, but to try other things. I'm a bit of a hobby butterfly. Anyone knows me, whether it be brewing, 3D printing, weightlifting, Warhammer, building camper vans. I tend to do a lot because my mind has to be active all the time. So working for myself gives the ability to do that. I've got a board behind me. It's just full of projects. Honestly,
yeah,
work and non-work related, and I've kind of prioritised them into order, and I will do them. But we've got some kind of new business ideas that could be coming up over the next kind of 12 months or so, all off the back of recruitment, and it gives me the freedom to be able to do that. Yeah, I just want to make my own little difference in my own little part of the world because you only get one chance. You live every day, but you only die once. So let's just
yep.
do what you can every day to make things just a little bit better.
Amazing, amazing. And if you could give yourself one piece of advice, if you were to, go back in time, start the business again, what do you think that would be?
Get more sleep. 110%. I know, as daft as it sounds, rest. As I'm
Yeah,
getting older, and fitness and weight is harder to shift, etc., it's get more rest. Um, Put the computer down, stop watching that next Netflix show. It's get some rest and come in fresh the next day.
yep,
Because I always I've always written two plans a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then I always recheck, and I always do it. But if I'm not fresh, things get pushed back. So it's just relax and come in with a fresh mind every single day. But I don't know if you've ever heard of the Serenity Prayer. I'll paraphrase it, and it's effectively it's don't worry about the things you can't control. It's give me the grace, and that I know it. I don't know it verbatim, but it's to actually utilize it. It's don't stress about what you can't control. We work with people. We work in recruitment. People change.
yep.
Someone that's definitely going to go to that interview always might not. And I don't care. All these guides about counter offers and all sorts on the internet. We're dealing with people that are emotional, and I am etc. They change. So don't sweat what you can't control, but always have a backup.
100. I'm a big proponent of exactly what you're saying. I've never heard the prayer, but you can only control the controllables. Like, if you can't control it, you can do what you can to, make light of it and make it the best situation possible, but really it's out of your hands. But no, Andy, thank you very much, my friend. I think it's been a super interesting conversation. I think you've had an amazing journey and love how open you were. I guess you know, where can people find, yourself, your business, if they want to learn more?
Sure. So, haroldpatrick.com is the company website. It's being redone and that should be launched in the next month or so. Also active on LinkedIn quite heavily with videos and things. Just Andy Norton. You'll see my smiling face without the cap. my hairline. I like wearing caps these days. My hairline's atrocious. But keep an eye out for the next kind of 6 weeks or so for the Workstation podcast, which is a US-centered manufacturing-based podcast that we're in the latter stages of development. So that's an exciting proposition. But yeah, and just to everyone joining recruitment out there, just enjoy it. But all I'll say is for anyone, listen to it or not, but be sincere. That's all.
Amazing, amazing signing off message. Andy, again, thank you so much, my friend.
Cheers, Owen.
I really
Thanks.
enjoyed the conversation.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day. Thank you.